Uganda's budget focuses on restoring the economy back to a medium-term growth path. We have the story in our bulletin today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nabe Kajura, but first are the headlines. And Central African Republic's Prime Minister Cabinet resign. And in our sports today, South Africa edges Uganda Cranes 3-2 in international friendly match. Welcome once again. I am Nahabe Kajura with Africa Today, and we start with one of our top stories. Uganda will on 12th June 2021 join the rest of the world to commemorate World Day Against Child Labour under the theme Acting Now to End Child Labour. Celebrations will be held scientifically with a few invited individuals at Hotel Africana in Kampala. Our reporter has more.
Child labor refers to the exploitation of children through any form of work that deprives children of their childhood, interferes with their ability to attend regular school, and is mentally, physically, socially, and morally harmful. Addressing a news conference at the Government Media Center in Kampala, the Permanent Secretary to the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Mr. Aggrey Chibenge, said child labour is still a challenge to Uganda's social and economic transformation.
According to the Uganda National Household Survey of 2016-17, a total of about 2,048,000 children out of the 14,984,929 aged between 5 to 17 years were engaged in some form of child labor, which represents 14% of all children nationally.
The school closures and loss of incomes triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic have led to child labor, as many children have been forced to enter the workforce in order to help their families survive. According to Chibenge, child labor can result into extreme bodily and mental harm or death, denies children of the right to education. However, government has taken measures to eliminate child labor.
But we also have complementary programs like the Universal Primary Education Program UPE and the Universal Secondary Education Program USE, which government has put in place to ensure that all children can access education at a greatly subsidized cost, reducing the risk of children being engaged in child labor.
Worldwide, agriculture is the largest employer of child labor, and in the world's poorest countries, 1 in 5 children are engaged in child labor. Globally, the incidence of child labor decreased from 25% to 10% between 1960 and 2003, according to the World Bank. Nevertheless, the total number of child laborers remain high, with UNICEF and International Labour Organization acknowledging an estimated 168 million children aged between 5 to 17 worldwide were involved in child labor in 2013. Nalgo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Now, the outgoing House Budget Committee chairperson and Finance State Minister designate Amos Lugolobi on Thursday read the 44.7 trillion Ugandan shillings 2021-2022 national budget on behalf of the president, which will be implemented by domestic revenue by 76.7% and external revenue by 23.3%. Our reporter has more.
According to the national budget read to Ugandans yesterday by the finance minister designate Amos Lugolobi, Uganda's domestic revenue is projected to be 22.425 trillion Ugandan shillings, while domestic borrowing being 2.943 trillion Ugandan shillings. Lugolobi said that the government will also source revenues of 200 billion Ugandan shillings from the Petroleum Fund and another 3.583 trillion Ugandan shillings from budget support. External financing for projects, according to Lugolobi, will be 6.868 trillion Ugandan shillings, while appropriating to aid stands at 212.4 billion Ugandan shillings, and the domestic debt refinancing 8.547 trillion Ugandan shillings. The minister noted that 9.6 trillion Ugandan shillings of the budget has been provided for peace, securing and good governance, which funds will be for refurbishing and maintaining military equipment, complete construction of a military referral hospital in Mbuya, and commence construction of 30,000 housing units for the military. The minister added that 134.9 billion Ugandan shillings has been allocated in the budget for the financial year 2021-2022 to enhance digitalization of the economy, while 7.7 trillion Ugandan shillings has been allocated to enhance human capital development. He said that this financial year Uganda's budget focuses much on restoring the economy back to a medium-term growth path, improving well-being of the population to ensure health and the skilled workforce, and providing peace, security, and good governance. Reporting for TV Africa News, Nahabwe Kajura.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now, moving on, the Kampala Capital City Authority will, with immediate effect, lawfully enforce the presidential directives of COVID-19 around the city to curb further spread of COVID-19.
While addressing the media at the Uganda Media Center, the resident district commissioner for Kampala, Mr. Hood Hussein, said that access to Kampala Capital City Authority facilities, including headquarters, division offices, health centers, and other service points, are open to the public, but only to be visited when necessary so as to curb the spread of COVID-19.
Access to the KCCA facilities, that is the city authority, the headquarters, and the division offices, and the health centers, and other service points. All health centers are open to the public at all times. All health centers within the authority are open to the public at all times. So we want to encourage the public to feel free to reach the health centers. We are appealing to the people within Kampala only to visit KCCA offices, including the RCC's office, when absolutely necessary. We are trying to discourage people who just walk in. Even when they don't have anything important, you find them coming to our offices. So we want to encourage that you only come to those offices only when it is necessary.
The resident city commissioner further added that gatherings of more than 20 people at any of the KCCA premises and offices, including council meetings, are suspended since they hold more than 20 people. The RCC also encouraged people to conduct meetings using online means.
Of more than 20 persons at the authority and any of the KCCA premises are suspended. And this includes the council meetings, because there are more than 20. I know a letter is out trying to invite councillors for a meeting. That too is suspended. We want to encourage virtual meetings. We want to encourage virtual meetings. The authority can conduct meetings using Zoom. Some of us are studying, but using Zoom. So it's not necessarily, it's not a must that we must have physical meetings. No, it's not allowed. So all meetings at the authority must not be more than 20 people.
All these will be conducted as a way of enforcing the presidential directives on COVID-19 pandemic, including penalties to the directive violations.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now, moving on in our top stories in Rwanda, the national airline of Rwanda has announced a suspension of all its flights to Uganda with effect on Thursday, June 10th, 2021 until further notice. The decision was announced in a statement published on the airline's website and social media platforms. We have more.
The suspension follows a surge of COVID-19 cases in Uganda, with the country battling with a devastating second wave of the epidemic. The airline said in a statement that customers who have booked their flight tickets have been advised to rebook and fly at a later date once flights resume, at no additional cost or request for refund. The suspension comes just hours after the United Arab Emirates also suspended all flights from Uganda due to the surge in COVID-19 cases in Uganda. At least 784 people are admitted in different hospitals, and COVID-19 treatment centers around the country have tested positive for the virus, according to the Uganda's health ministry. The accumulative positive COVID-19 cases by Thursday stand at 56,949, while 402 fatalities have been recorded. Batuli Kawala reporting for TV Africa.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now let's go for a quick break. We should come back with our international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In our international news today, thousands of Congolese locals have been internally displaced after being forced to flee the city of Goma and its surrounding regions in the Democratic Republic of Congo after the eruption of Mount Nyiragongo erupted on May 22nd. We have more.
The residents of the city of Goma were forced to evacuate again 1 week later when authorities raised the alarm over the chances of another volcanic eruption. Many now grapple with lack of food, quality water and sickness in the cramped up and hopefully temporary camp quarters for poor conditions. Inside a shelter in Mujoga, Aminata Subue and several women with little children sharing the space that became their temporary home. A case in this point is Veronica Susan, a widow who lives with 2 of her children and cooks food in one of the pots she rescued from her house that was destroyed by the lava before fleeing. North Kivu authorities gave the green light to those with inhabitable property to return home, while the rest will remain at the shelters in different regions. Medical assistance is being provided by members of Doctors Without Borders to displaced people in some of the affected areas where diarrhetic diseases, respiratory infections, malaria and suspected cases of cholera have been identified.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now, moving on in our international news today, people in Mali have reacted to Thursday's announcement by France's President Emmanuel Macron on the future reduction of French military presence fighting Islamic extremism in Africa's Sahel region. We have more on this report.
French troops had been present in Mali since 2013 when they intervened to force Islamic extremist rebels from power in towns across the country's north. France currently has about 5,100 soldiers deployed across the semi-arid strip on the southern edge of the Sahara Desert as part of the Operation Barkhane, whose headquarters are in the Chadian capital. Public opinion in Mali is mostly against the presence of foreign forces, where militant attacks have grown in gravity and frequency over the years. Mamadou, a culture producer from Bamako, said that they welcome the presence of Barkhane alongside the Malians for many years, who can face the terrorist threat that is invading the whole Sahel. Several thousand French troops will remain in the region in total, participating in various operations, including the new cooperation mission.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now, Famin Ngredaba, who served as President Faustin Archange, Chief of Cabinet before being appointed as Prime Minister in February 2019, has resigned from the post on Thursday, as Prime Minister of the Central African Republic, along with the entire cabinet. Our reporter has more.
Famini Ngrebada had been one of the main architects of the Khartoum Peace Agreement on Friday in February 2019 between the authorities and armed groups, which brought relative stability to the country that has been mired in conflict since 2013. His resignation comes after strained political and diplomatic ties with former colonial ruler France. Paris announced this week that it was suspending military assistance to Bangui, saying authorities in the African country were complicit in a Russian propaganda campaign against its forces and diplomats. In December 2020, Facebook accused Paris and Moscow of running rival disinformation campaigns in the Central African Republic. The platform said it had pulled down more than 500 accounts, pages and groups from Facebook and Instagram originating from Russia and France, targeting 13 African countries, including Mali, Tunisia, Libya, Niger, Ivory Coast, and Burkina Faso. A spokesman for the presidency said Ngrebada will be asked to lead new government.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now talking about combating deforestation, extensive deforestation to cultivate cocoa in Côte d'Ivoire, the world's leading producer of beans, has reduced the surface area of the Ivorian forest from 16 million hectares, or more than 50% at the time of the country's independence in 1960, to 2 million hectares, or less than 11% today, according to environmental experts. We have more.
Located in the Ome region, the 30,000 hectare Tening classified forest is home to the largest state-owned cutting center and reforestation specialist site in the country, the Society the Development des Plantations Forestries. In the lush forest of mahogany and teak trees, the working day begins with a salute to the flag, after which a roadmap is handed over to the water and forestry agents in olive green military fatigues. Shortly afterwards, dozens of workers under their supervision rushed to the seed orchard to collect the essential elements for crossing and cutting. Water and Forests Colonel Matthew Ole explained that the reforestation concerns the entire territory of Côte d'Ivoire, and it is from this cutting center that they raised seedlings for reforestation. Global warming, natural disasters, soil depletion and population migration have also negatively impacted all of the Côte d'Ivoire's 234 classified forests.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with the business news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa the Right now. In a business news today, Zimbabwe is hoping for economic rebound this year as Finance Minister Mutuli expects the economy to grow by 7.8%. For 2 consecutive years, the country's economy has been shrinking partly because of the natural disasters like Cyclone Indai and a devastating drought that battered southern Africa. We have more.
According to Zimbabwe's Finance Minister, Mithuli Nchube, the flexible economy is being fixed and that the government has introduced a new currency which did not exist before as a monetary policy to supplement what's happening on the fiscal side. Nchube came into office after the disputed 2018 general election when Zimbabwe faced foreign currency and cash shortages, including an unsustainable budget deficit, difficulties in re-engaging with international lenders and investors after the Robert Mugabe regime. The minister said the government had been engaging creditors and has begun repaying its $8.0 billion external debt. Nchube said that they have even managed to balance the budget, began token payments for the World Bank, the African Development Bank, and European Investment Bank. According to official data, inflation has begun to slow down from around 700% in 2020 to nearly 162% last month. The International Monetary Fund projects growth of 3.1% for Zimbabwe's economy.
Well, thank you so much, Harry Potter. Now, away from business, in our health news today, the Lesotho Flying Doctors Services are flying to deliver badly needed vaccines. It is still a struggle to vaccinate those in Africa's remotest parts. With supply limited, remote settlements in difficult terrain, the job of delivering vaccines has fallen to doctors traveling by light aircraft. We have more.
The Lesotho Flying Doctors Services have been delivering jabs to health workers in remote areas. Mamfo Leleka, the nurse with the Lesotho Flying Doctor Services, said that they are not comfortable and not fair to everyone, therefore need to roll out vaccination as fast as possible because this pandemic is killing people. The Lesotho Flying Doctor Services campaign comes as some world leaders meet at the G7 summit with vaccine donations expected to be high on the agenda. US President Joe Biden has said he will announce a vaccine plan for the world during the summit. While more than 2 billion vaccines have been administered across the world, on the African continent, just 2% of the population has been vaccinated. Many countries rely on donations from the World Health Organization's COVAX scheme.
Well, thank you so much, Harry Potter. Now, in our sports news today, Uganda Cranes rebuilding process kicked off on a sore note, falling 3-2 to South Africa during an international friendly match played at Orlando Stadium on Thursday, 10th June 2021 in Johannesburg. The visitors took lead throughout the first half but fell 3-1 at some stage in the subsequent stanza. We have more.
Ibrahim Oriti gave Uganda Cranes the lead in the 16th minute, diving at the back post to connect team captain Emmanuel Arnold Okwi's inviting cross from the right. The Bafana staged a decent second half performance, scoring 3 goals through Bongokule Hilongwani and substitute Evidence Mankopa. Uganda's second half substitute Abdul Lumala scored at the stroke of full time to narrow the margin when he headed from cross range after a corner kick by Mustafa Chiza in the 88th minute. This was the first international game for Uganda and South Africa after a disastrous AFCON 2021 qualification campaign for the two countries. Uganda Cranes fielded Chipa United goalkeeper Ismail Watenga in a goal, returning the national team post after 5 years' absence. Vipers Paul Wheeler and Canadian-based Mustafa Kiza featured at the right and left back roles respectively.
Well, thank you so much, Harry Potter. Now, before we end our bulletin, let's have a recap of our top stories. And Central African Republic's Prime Minister Cabinet resign. And in our sports today, South Africa edges Uganda Cranes 3-2 in international friendly match. Well, thank you so much for joining us from where we started from, but we still urge you to go and have your vaccine and follow the SOPs as directed by the Minister of Health. It is TV Africa, the right to know. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
This is Africa, and that was the news.